As you remember, Marketing 601 is a free marketing seminar brought to you by from Marketing Communications. We're all set to do our third one last spring, and of course, the world went into pandemic. So we're trying on Zoom today. We're going to cross our fingers that everything works. Just a couple of quick logistics. We are recording this, and we will send you a link when we're completed. Also, if you know of anyone, any of your colleagues who couldn't make it today, if you'll pass that link on to them, or if you want to go back and review it, should be excellent information. Also, we really want to make sure that we are giving you what you want, and that's why we're using surveys. And I'm going to turn a little bit of time over to Kevin Ferris to explain how that survey will work.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for coming. First of all, yeah, like Bill said, Zoom fatigue, it's happened to all of us, so I appreciate you all jumping on. So at the end of this Marketing 601, we'll be sending out a survey just to get your feedback on how everything went with the event, and if there are any things that we can do to improve. Marketing 601, this is very much in its infancy. This is only our third event, so this is still just a great opportunity to find out ways how we can help better serve us all here on campus, really. And so these surveys are just a really great indicator on finding out what topics are you most interested in learning, what are things that we can help do to better collaborate together on campus. So we would very much appreciate you guys helping us out with these surveys. And so with that, I'll kick it back over to you, Brian.
Okay, thanks. Well, our guest today is Kelly Holladay of Max Connect Marketing. Kelly is a seasoned professional, and we at University Marketing Communications have been using Max Connect as a strategic partner for several years, and Kelly will give you some background about that. But also, Kelly is an avid cyclist. I can attest, I'm a runner myself, and I've seen him out on the road in the south end of the valley. We've engaged each other a couple of times. And he has a wife and 3 daughters, as well as their dogs, Girl Dog and Hedgehog. So Kelly, glad to have you with us.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thanks for the invite. I'm excited to run through a number of things here and cover some details that we've been working on and things that I think will benefit the whole group. So we'll kind of get started here and run through. Basically, my intent here is to give a little bit of background on Max Connect as a company, as well as our relationship with the University of Utah and some of the value and benefit that we bring to the table here. So just in way of kicking things off, this will be kind of the agenda that we'll follow through as far as just some of our company history, some of the impact of COVID, the agility that's required to adapt to new marketing challenges and opportunities, and then some of the audience targeting and how we win, and a couple of case studies there actually from the University of Utah. So about us, so we're a digital powerhouse as an agency. We're based in Draper, Utah. We've been around for about 7 years. We combine the most extensive real-time consumer data set with personalized and timely dynamic ads executed by digital experts. This allows us to exceed performance standards in the industry. So a couple of things that kind of maybe peel back the layers a little bit on this in regards to us tapping into audience profiles and personalizing ad content and dynamically serving it to individuals, and also the people that are in-house that are managing these campaigns. So we don't outsource anything, and that's something that's, I think, very unique to our agency, where a lot of the partnerships that we see with agencies, whether it's an agency of record or other types of providers, will have, they have certain things in-house, and then like a digital element will be outsourced to a third party, or some kind of media outlet or whatnot. Everything that we do here at Max Connect is in-house. So if I have questions on a digital campaign, Marie Winters is on the call. I work closely with her on a variety of different campaigns. If she has a question, she reaches out to me directly. And then I go and touch base with the digital team who's just upstairs in our office here, and we're able to just kind of streamline all of that, all those types of questions, as well as customizations and details on the campaign. So that's a huge benefit and value, not only for me personally as I'm dealing with clients, and I have somebody just at the other end of the phone or that we can chat about. A couple of things here too. So we're a nationally recognized agency. We're ranked by Google in the top 1% of digital agencies in the world. So this is kind of unique metrics, obviously, and we love to discuss this. So I recall back probably 4 years ago, I was in my office and I heard the founding partners and a couple of other guys just kind of hooting and hollering like, hey, we're Google just reached out to us and we're all-star partners. And at the time, I literally didn't know what that meant. I was like, oh, cool. So when do we get our Google backpacks and thermoses? I just didn't realize the significance of it. But come to find out, Google actually went in and to determine that we were eligible for the All-Star program, they audited all of our accounts and they look for adherence to best practices. They look for performance and other key metrics they look at is retention rate. And we maintain a 90% retention rate, and we do that without a contract of any kind. So every client that we work with is on a month basis. We're going to earn your business month in and month out, or else why would we do business, or why would we expect you to do business with us? And so that Google no longer has the All-Star program, but they have what they call MA1 or Managed Agency Level 1 status, which again puts us in the top 1% of all digital agencies worldwide. We're also Inc. 500 list, and Best Utah Companies to Work For was a recent designation that we've got as well. So a couple cool things about the company as a whole. As we look at some of our partnerships, you're in good hands. Obviously, we've worked with a number of nationally and worldwide recognized brands, as well as many local companies and entities as well. But these are just a few of our clientele. And then kind of our agency partnership with the University of Utah. So we are a sole source provider with the University of Utah. That was obviously a painstaking process. Anybody who's gone through that process knows that there's a lot goes into it. But from that, we've worked directly with marketing communications for a number of years. And as a result, we've also helped with admissions campaigns. We worked with the College of Law, done some human resources, university housing, environmental science, as well as stuff for health. So those are some of the departments that we currently work with or have done projects for and marketing for in the past. And overall, as we've talked internally about our relationship with the University of Utah and the brand position and things like that, some of the things that we've taken away from working with the university is obviously, strength of the reputation has always been a contributing factor to individual campaign successes. Being able to rely on that and get that brand and that message out to target audience really has driven great results. We've also been able to leverage great messaging and a strong recognizable brand across the board through a variety of different platforms. So when we're delivering, the University of Utah messages to the correct audience at the right time, the experience really is relevant to those users. And we'll get into more some of those details here in a moment. But overall, the targeted approach has really yielded significant growth and sustainable results for the University of Utah in a variety of different departments. Okay, so this kind of talks about kind of the next normal and being being nimble and being able to adapt to some of the uncertainty that we all face in these particular times with COVID and a variety of other things like that, with just things changing so quickly and how we're able to adapt. So this was an interesting quote from the CEO of Shopify. He said that the future we imagined in 2030 has been pulled forward to the present. And so there's interesting statistics regarding, basically the ramp up of e-commerce and a variety of other types of, digital transactions when COVID hit and when people started going to lockdown. Just really where everything just fast forward just leaped a decade in advance with all the people that basically were just transitioning to everybody's getting Zoom fatigue, everybody's in these virtual meetings and kind of handling business that way. And so it's been certainly a unique circumstance that we can all relate to. And there's a couple other things that are interesting here from a statistical standpoint, where you look at 32% of consumers say they're spending longer on social media sites than ever before. There's 3 billion users on Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, and that usage is up 11%. A couple other interesting statistics here regard to education, as regarding to medical and other types of household goods. But some of the industries, I highlighted this because education and trade certification, that's one category that's growing at a very rapid rate. So some pretty cool opportunities for the University of Utah as you look at that particular vertical there to grow. Okay, so diving into a little bit more of higher education, some of the specifics of disruptors, trends, implications, and insights, and then obviously connecting with your audience. And so these are some of the things that we've seen as far as disruptors and trends. So as a long-term outlook, it became really uncertain, especially early on, in terms of what online versus on-campus education was going to look like. So universities and colleges were really forced to adapt quickly to the circumstances, as everybody here on this call knows. And decisive action has been a critical part of that transition to go from online courses and education. And so there's been ramp ups in investments in infrastructure to offer digital classroom settings for all types of learning, and to be able to that have been adopted by the majority of higher education institutions. So those are some of the things that we've seen. Some of the implications and insights are, as we've seen, universities have had to adapt to a more focused digital classroom mentality. They're now able to expand their borders. So really, it kind of creates an opportunity that we're kind of pigeonholed geographically. In a lot of cases, it's not always the case. Obviously, there's a lot of outreach and things like that across the country, and a variety of other international opportunities and things like that as well. But that expanding of borders has been something that's been really cool to see. It's been much more than it ever has before. And so, for example, schools that offer great educational value or unique program benefits, they've really been able to gain more traction on these out-of-market students with their online courses. And universities experiencing great success with students enrollment from out-of-state individuals, which they'd previously not had much success with. So those are some of the implications and insights that we've seen as we're talking to not only the University of Utah, but other colleges that we work with, trade schools, a variety of other educational institutions that they're seeing that those opportunities are opening up much more than they have previously. So connecting with your audience really becomes a huge part and a huge strategic opportunity, and really clear and concise message that's conveying value, convenience. Those things are critically important, and then targeting the right audience digitally through display, search, social. Those will continue to yield very, very good dividends, and they'll be critical to the ongoing success as the landscape really continues to evolve. Because you used to see where kind of a marketing plan or a strategy would be mapped out for the next fiscal year, where a lot of times those are being pulled into, hey, what are we doing in the next 30 days, 90 days? There's just so much volatility that that makes it difficult to forecast. However, you can be adaptable and make some plans, as long as you are flexible in how that delivery will happen or what. So another thing cool here is direct and poignant messaging is a huge part of lead cultivation. And so we're seeing educators that are experiencing massive growth or the lack thereof will diminish their footprint based on the messaging, the standpoint that they take. Another big part is a concerted effort to harvest every opportunity for marketing efforts is more important than ever. So basically capitalizing on the leads that you are garnishing for individual programs. And then beyond that scope, it opens up opportunities for nurturing programs where you're going to have people who you've been in contact with, they've had a touch point with the University of Utah program specific or something like that, and then doing everything you can to continue to keep the engagement high with that individual until they convert and become a student and enroll. So more and more schools are really trying to, at a very minimum, maintain their footprint, but we're more and more trying to grow their market share and really, again, capitalize on those expansion of borders and some of the opportunities that are created here. This is a great example of kind of that messaging and adaptability. So the University of UMC provided these assets where it was just a quick change to address the convenience factor. Right, you can take classes online, pants are optional, no parking required, or bed heads accepted. So these are just a couple examples of how they're able to shift to a very quick change in market circumstances and how people are learning, and really capitalize on that with a poignant message. And so this campaign actually generated fantastic results. But that was a great example of that adaptability. Okay, so kind of one final thing. This is an interesting point that I think everyone can relate to here. So this is a unique period in world history where the steepest learning curve of all our professional lives. Right? I mean, been so much that's taken place so far this year, and who knows what's going to happen going forward. And so those who embrace it will not only emerge as better professionals, but maybe even better people. Okay, this is a cool segment. This is probably one of my favorite pieces here, because we talk about the poignancy of a message and targeting the right types of audiences. And we've all been hit with ads in the past where you see something like, why am I seeing that ad, right? And so our mission and our goal as a company is to mitigate that 100%, to where when people are being served up an ad, it's relevant to them. And everyone in this call here obviously has the same type of goal. So we use real-time customer behavior data to optimize your spend, generate engagements with people who really want to go to school, and then deliver results in order to meet your objectives. And so these are some of the elements here that we'll talk about, but essentially kind of a path where old school digital, this is kind of how it worked. You'd land on a particular website. So we all probably recognize this website. This is KSL, right? You land on that website and there's kind of a banner takeover of the website where what percentage of people who are landing on KSL are in the market for the Bridal Expo, right? I know I'm not. I've been married for 20 years, and I've got a 15-year-old daughter that I hope we're at least 8 or 9 years away from needing this. But this is kind of how the digital mentality was, where you'd go to a particular website and you'd want to get your ads on that website, and you'd go whether it's weather.com or KSL or ESPN or wherever your target audience is, you're buying basically all the eyeballs that are hitting that website, right? And so big shifts and changes and opportunities have basically come as a result of that, where you can now layer on age, gender, location, income, technology, and a variety of other things. And so as that's continually been refined, you can even begin to start looking at audience segments. So these are two kind of examples where at face value, these Zach and Bridger are very much the same. They're 20-year-old students. They live in Salt Lake. They're pursuing an education, and they're interested in finance, right? And so then as you start to kind of refine things a little bit more, Zach's in a little bit different situation than Bridger. So he's interested in the traditional on-campus experience. He's got a 529 education savings plan, and his parents are willing and in a position to help with his college expenses. Bridger's in a little bit different situation. He needs to take classes online, try and minimize his expensive, needs to work while he's earning his degree, so he doesn't have that savings, that savings program or safety net. So essentially, you're able to segment those two individuals where at face value, you'd say, hey, they're the same, 20-year-old looking for higher education, right? And at a high level, they are. But you can get much more granular than that and start to look at, there's a unique ad specifically served up to Zach based on, hey, your experience is different, right? So the display ads and other types of assets that he's going to see are going to be different from Bridger's, where his is talking about a degree from your home and apply now. And so those are two kind of examples where you get down into the niche verticals of being relevant to your audience. That relevance really is king. And so we have conversations with Google. We have a dedicated team at Google. We have a Google rep that we meet with quite often. And some of the things that they talk about is, they'll have, a big update that rolls out. So they'll say, hey, these are the driving forces behind the update. We really want to eliminate kind of the tricks and the black hat tactics that are basically pushing websites to the results for organic rankings and things like that, and really deliver the best user experience, which in turn is going to be the most relevant data compared to what the person's searching for. So if someone's searching for college courses, Utah, Google's algorithms are going to crawl the different websites and look at what is the most relevant website to serve up in those results for college courses in Utah, right? And so the same thing and the same methodology is what we apply from a marketing standpoint, is we're going to pinpoint audiences based on what they're interested in, what they're researching, the types of search queries they're performing, and a variety of other things. And I've got a graph here that I'll run through in a second and show you a little bit of how that comes together. But basically, this is kind of an audience segment we're targeting for a Gen Z student. So, 18 to 24-year-old across the US, there's 220 million. High school diploma, there's 136 million. People who are interested in college, 70 million. With a 529 plan, 15 million. In Utah, and windows down at 250,000, and then online education opportunity portions are 180,000. So those are basically, you know, as you're starting to look at, hey, here's our target audience, and this is something we get into quite, you know, on every campaign with UMC, with the law program. We say, who's our audience? Let's dig down. Where are they geographically? You know, what do they look like? You know, what types of programs are they interested in? You know, what type of law? What type of you know, other types of general admission types of categories can we target them based on their interests and things like that. And then in addition, you know, obviously there's, you know, student audiences that you can target that are adults that are 35 to 44 that are looking for, you know, they maybe have an associate's degree. There's 144 million people in the US that meet that criteria with good credit, 71 million, interested in education, 11 million, and then in Utah, that number dwindles down to 400,000. But that's still a massive audience of people that we know are in for higher education or pursuing they're continuing their education based on where they left off to improve their employment situation or whatnot. They have good credit, they're interested in education, and they live locally. So there's some of the things that kind of peel back the layers and basically show those segments and how you can basically whittle down to, hey, when we get in front of that person, it's because they're interested. It's because they've been doing research. Okay, so being in front of our audience is where they are, right? Obviously, when you're putting out a search ad or display ad, pre-roll, OTT, you know, variety of these different types of channels, you want it to be as relevant as possible, right? And so search ads, you know, there's 1,000 different strategies that are implemented from a search campaign, but really hitting on the right types of keywords. That it's not always just bid high, get the highest bid for the term that you think is the most effective. In some cases, the conversion rate from that particular keyword might not be as high, but you're paying, you know, $15 a click, but it converts at a 2% conversion rate, where you could potentially scoop up a lot of other clicks at a lower lower cost that yield a similar and or better click-through rate. And so there's a lot of different things that, you know, really when we tout ourselves as a, you know, a leader in the digital landscape, it's because our creative team and our digital team, they really spend significant amounts of time on each and every account. So it's not just a set it and forget it. You know, they're in these campaigns, and they're living and breathing these campaigns. They're looking at, you know, all these different batch tests and A/B scenarios, and doing different, you know, audience segments and things like that, and testing all this stuff to really drive the highest result at the lowest cost per click, and just overall the best results for our clients. And obviously, everybody in this room is obviously concerned about those types of things and wants to drive the best results. And so here's some of the things that, you know, that can help to identify that and help to looking at, you know, display and retargeting. These are critical elements of, you know, getting in front of your target audience, because there's thousands and thousands of websites that are open to these networks that you can basically pinpoint, segment your audiences down, and now you're getting a message in front of them wherever they go. You're not forced into a scenario where, okay, I have to go buy inventory on KSL, or I have to go buy inventory on weather.com and on all these different types of websites. You're able to basically pinpoint your audience and basically reverse that strategy, as opposed to trying to get your ad in front of everybody. Let's just, instead of, you know, that net fishing approach, let's go to spear fishing, where we're just reaching in and just tapping into the people that, you know, that are good candidates wherever they are, regardless of the website. You know, video, social, pre-roll, OTT. So, you know, as people are browsing around their phones, wherever they're reviewing content, getting a poignant, you know, video campaign from them. The great thing about video, obviously, is you're able to tell a story. You're able to put great assets visually. You can really tell a lifestyle story, and really just show some things in a different way and get that emotional tie-in that you can't with static ads and other types of assets. So that's an example of Imagine You video that we've run a number of campaigns for on social and pre-roll video and things like that. This is another segment that is kind of misunderstood and underutilized, I feel, in a lot of cases. So essentially, you know, as you look at a conquesting strategy, it is basically what it sounds like. You're building an audience around your competitor's website and third-party data. And so you're delivering relevant conquesting ads to people who have, you know, visited your competition, whether online or in person. So you have, you know, a competing school yeah, we're doing something like right now, orchestrated for one of the departments, where there's another school that has a lot of fallout from people that they get a lot of applications but only accept a certain number of those applications. So there's a lot of people at the end of that period, they're like, now what do I do, right? And so we're able to pinpoint those competitors and people who've been on their website, who visit them, and then deliver relevant ads to those individuals. So we're consistently delivering ads to really change your habits and drive the engagement to your brand. Like, hey, have you considered, do you realize that there's another option for you? And so this is a great, great benefit, where you can essentially kind of reach into the pocket of your competitors, and in some cases pick up, what they're leaving on the table, and in other cases saying, hey, we're going after the same person. And maybe they showed a higher interest at one point with your competitor, and you're able to get a specific message that talks about value, talks about convenience, and those key things that are so critical now. And then you're able to sway them over to, to your programs. All right. So this basically just itemizes 3, I think, critically important elements from proprietary intent data, cutting edge technology, and then human intelligence. Devin, one of our founding partners, constantly talks about human capital is our #1 asset. And really so, as we look at our digital team, we've grown massively as a company, but we grow strategically. We want to get the right type of people that are aggressive, have the right personality, that they can sit in front of these computers, gather a mile-long spreadsheet, but have a hunt in mind. They've got a goal in mind. They're competitive. They want to win, and they're looking at the data-driven strategy. They're looking at the business growth. They're looking at insights and application, tracking and attribution. All these different elements are cohesive and work perfectly together to generate really kind of the perfect strategy. So this is a cool graph that kind of outlines some of the things that everyone on this call is probably trying to accomplish in a variety of different ways, really. So as you look at this top row, these are transactional data, things that people are buying and consuming and purchasing and engaging with online. Geography, obviously, you want to hit where your best geographic opportunities are, and looking at online intent. So this is an element where you're essentially capturing data on the types of searches that people are performing, the types of videos they're watching, the websites they're visiting. So you're having somebody who's essentially raising their hand saying, hey, I'm looking for higher education because I've been to BYU's website, I've been to UVU's website, I've been to the U of U website, and other schools, right? And so those people they're hot, and they're essentially raising their hand saying, I'm a good candidate. And so we're gathering data on that, and then also layering on a variety of different things from a demographic standpoint, psychographics, and then marrying, pushing that down the funnel to where we're hitting a hyper-targeted audience based on all those elements there, and our real-time intent platform. So hitting them in the here and the now. And so at the other end of this comes a variety of different marketing channels and strategies that you're going to use to get in front of them. So this furthest one to the left is going to be a display ad. Let's say you're just out there basically hunting and gathering for new opportunities. A display ad is going to show up on their browser as they're visiting whatever type of website they're visiting at that particular moment. Then they land on YouTube, whether it's on their phone or whatever, and they're served up a U of U video. Then that drives them over to the website. You got them, right? You got them on the website, and then you hit them with a social ad. So they're seeing U of U in their social ad now, and then remarketing to them, and then bringing them back through a search ad. Now they're like, okay, I've seen a lot of the different programs. I've been on the website. Now they go and search for this particular program. And then, obviously remarketing to those people once they do take that place, to really push them down to where they're finally a transaction. They've clicked apply now, and they're in the funnel now. And so really that's kind of a simplified version of everything that kind of goes on from a targeting standpoint. Is you take all these different data points that are available through thousands of different data providers, network opportunities. There's thousands of those as well, and then breaking those down to really sift through, hit the right people at the right time, and hit them wherever they are. Hopefully that makes sense. We can cover a couple of these things too at the end here as far as kind of Q&A as well. So conquesting, we already talked a little bit about that. The new media opportunities. This is something that I thought we'd cover. We have actually talked about this with UMC on some of the campaigns where running focus on delivery on Twitch. TikTok is kind of one of those where the platform's interesting. It's, you know, we're not putting a lot of energy or effort down that channel right now, but because there's obviously been some controversy behind it, but there's been some, you know, acquisitions and things like that that are potentially bringing it. So we'll obviously keep a close eye out on it based on the opportunities with our demographic, and so those may be some things that are recommended here, you know, going down the road. But essentially, this graph here just kind of breaks down the potential strengths and or weaknesses of looking at individual, you know, types of channels. So, you know, you can go direct and you can get video buys through display and things like that. A lot of times those will come at a lower cost, which is great. But again, it comes down to that relevance, right? And so the weakness is it's less impactful. It's less targeted, and it's not based on real time. It's basically just, hey, you hit the website, you're getting an ad, type of thing. So those are some of the details there. And I'll pass this the deck on everybody else can kind of review it. And if you have questions, I'd be happy to connect with you on it as well. So then the right time, the right mix, the right structure, basically bringing all these types of elements together. Oops. So this is a quick example of kind of what a traditional type of campaign would look like, where you have, you know, the client, the University of Utah, individual locations and or departments, and then kind of what the target audience is for those individual departments, those individual you know, programs or whatnot, and then kind of the specific, you know, channel campaigns. And so, you know, standard campaigns, you know, with structure called for maybe 10 to 20 campaigns per client objective. It's not necessarily as granular and or personalized. And then typically what we see is, as we're structuring things, we're getting much more granular. And so we win because, you know, our strategy is superior. And so as you look at these different segments, you're saying, hey, this particular program, their target audience is a little bit different. How can we get in front of that target audience and then create, you know, specific channels? So, you know, from those channels, there could be a social campaign, a display campaign. There could be search. You say, hey, well, search is actually driving a lot of our goals. People who are applying are coming through search. Well, what happened prior to that got them to perform that search? There's all kinds of different things that will help boost and elevate that. And so what we've seen is there will be a variety of different campaigns, efforts, and energies that go into promoting your brand, your specific value proposition to that audience. So when they do perform that search query, they maybe already had 3 or 4 touch points on a display ad or a video or something like that. That's basically primed the pump and got them to where they actually perform that search and then converted down that particular channel. Okay, so finally here, we'll just kind of cover a couple case studies that are really brief. From University of Utah. So this is for the Office of Admissions. Essentially, you know, the goal as we started working on these campaigns was to increase the exposure to potential students and really improve enrollment. And so, you know, we're shifting from traditional types of marketing to hyper-targeted channels that really focus exclusively on students, as well as parents, that really improve the brand awareness, as well as the marketing response rates. And so, you know, ads are delivered in real time through a platform that really targets audiences based on engagement. And so it's really yielding a much better result, as well as more relevant content to the user. So it's just a better user experience that, hey, I've been looking for education, I've been looking for programs, and here I'm being served up an ad that specifically, you know, is pointing me down that path. Okay, and then in addition to really looking at audience profiles and targeting outreach, marketing to potential students and parents, we really identified segments of unique marketing opportunity. And so you'll see on this slide here, the main page has, you know, I'm a future freshman, transfer student, non-traditional, non-degree seeking, graduate student, a variety of different categories that people can basically categorize themselves based on what type of, you know, experience they're coming back for, or looking to enter through. And so as people enter in that channel, there creates an opportunity to say, hey, can we go set up campaigns specifically for those particular audiences? And then it becomes more of a yield-driven campaign that we have people that are in that funnel. And then also people who've clicked apply, who've been in a particular, it's a freshman who's applied. Now we can basically segment that audience and say, all those people that have applied, this is what we want this message to that particular group to say. So a variety of different things that kind of went into those plans and the actual orchestration and delivery through a variety of different creative elements and different channels and whatnot. But essentially the results were, identifying the right audience, getting placement in front of them. It really, the admissions to the scene, consistent improvement to site traffic and engagement, and a record number of student applications. And so a couple quick points here from just an analysis of looking at some of the historical reports. So October of 2018 compared to October of 2019 was on pace to have about a 22% increase in overall conversions. So what happened actually was admissions actually reached out and they basically wanted to pour gas on the fire and really ramp some efforts up. So they poured some additional budget into the campaign. And as a result of that, 2019 in October, there was a 115% increase in conversion. So just a massive spike in overall engagement. And obviously that's the time of year when those audiences are really coming down the funnel. They're looking to click those applications. We just spread our wings as far and wide as we could, and as targeted as possible to capture as many of those students from wherever they were. Law school. So basically, again, same structure, same strategy. Increase exposure, increase enrollment. That was really what we're trying to accomplish there. Obviously, it's a very competitive landscape. It becomes even more critical to identify qualified candidates, and then really set yourself apart by promoting unique value and obviously the benefit of the law program. So a couple things that were cool and interesting here from when we first started advertising for the law program, 2018, there was kind of these peak times of year where we're really trying, that they obviously coincide with the enrollment periods, where it was like it would be dark throughout these particular times, and then as we're ramping up towards enrollment, then it's build up and spend more budget, right? And so we made some adjustments in 2019 where we certainly want to capitalize on those hot times and those, the seasonality of the enrollment periods and whatnot, but also about consistent digital campaign throughout the year to really keep the school top of mind with their target audience, and then really implemented a broad media mix during those peak times, which also increased overall user engagement and overall activity. And so with a focus on the right audience and the marketing message being impactful, really the engagement also improved quite a bit too. So these are just a couple stats from the campaign where click engagements increased by 163%, went from 11,000 clicks to 29,000 clicks. And keep in mind, this is the same budget. The budget wasn't increased over those particular periods. It was just a little bit of a shift to the strategy. Video views increased by 22%. View rates of those videos, meaning people who watched the entire video, increased by 10%. Conversions increased by 94%. Ultimately, that increased engagement and activity boosted student applications by 22%. So really some cool things that we talk about from a high level of, hey, there's all this data out there. There's all these opportunities. You can really refine your message. But when it really comes together and it's executed properly, then these are the type of results you should anticipate from a marketing strategy. That, yeah, it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to be, that audience is potentially going to be a moving target. The way that they interact with you is going to be a moving target. But keeping on the forefront of that and really, keeping the message relevant and keeping a laser focus on who you need that ad to get in front of is going to yield, these types of results where you're going to see, a lot of growth. So that really summarized everything that I had planned on covering from a presentation standpoint. Figure we could open it up and run through some questions, some Q&A and everything like that. If the things come through the chat already, or not seeing anything on the chat right now.
I imagine I have questions, and I imagine that everyone else has questions as well. If you'd like to maybe add your questions into the chat function, maybe that would be the best way to organize all 40 plus of us to make sure that we get those questions answered. I might want to start off with asking, Kelly, what are our first steps for a department who's interested in learning more about digital marketing, what would be their first steps, and what do they need to be thinking about as they start looking at this possibility?
Great question. So what I've found is I've talked to the different departments and worked with UMC. Each and every one is a little bit different, right? It's not a one size fits all campaign. It's not a one size fits all strategy. And so, you know, I'd love to coordinate with you. And if you have questions, you can reach out to me directly. And we can kind of sit down and say, hey, what are some of the goals and objectives of your department? What does your audience look like? And we can even start to dig into some insights for your particular audience, like we talked about the Zach and Bridger campaigns, and what those, you know, the available impressions, and then dig into, you know, the type of strategy that would be best for those types of individual, what assets you already have. And what assets, you know, would be potentially something you would want to coordinate with UMC on to create to get your consistent branded message that matches everything else that they've seen from the U of U out to that particular individual. So I think it would be just kind of a collaborative effort to you know, have a discussion and run through this. These are goals and objectives, and what are potential opportunities to help with that.
Looks like we have another question. Colin asked, besides student recruiting, could a digital campaign benefit fundraising or event attendance? Is that an appropriate use for this?
Great question, Colin. Yeah, absolutely. So we've done a variety of different, you know, event promotions for you know, on campus events. Those are obviously a little bit different now, but same thing with fundraising, where we're basically pinpointing the same types of audiences. So if you're fundraising for a specific type of you know, program, let's find people who are interested in that program, and people who are affluent, who are in a position to where they would be able to donate or want to donate. And so those are certainly segments that we've not only helped with the University of Utah with, and seeing great results, but they can definitely be effective. And, you know, obviously, you know, if you have a specific audience, so like one example I think is great here is Future Freshman Fridays, right? That's a very unique audience. And so pinpointing that freshman audience and on them, and we got a death grip on them, and we're just getting ads in front of them through, you know, is there in their Gmail, is there in their social campaigns, is there browsing, you know, websites. Here's an event specifically for freshmen. And so yeah, great question, and something that we can absolutely see great results with.
I know many departments on campus, we have a wide variety of marketing budgets from department to department. Is there a minimum amount of money that someone might need to spend in order to hit certain campaigns? What are we looking at as far as budgets? I imagine it's all the way across the board, correct?
Yeah, it definitely is. And, you know, as a company, we do have minimum budget requirements for clients. And it's typically $5,000 per client. Here's the fortunate thing. You know, we have a long-standing relationship with the University of Utah as a client. So there's individual departments or individual campaigns that you're thinking, hey, this could work really great, but I don't have $5,000 in budget to promote this particular event, or whatever the particular scenario is. That threshold's been met. And so if there's campaigns where, hey, I have a satellite campaign, or I have this particular thing that I'm trying to promote during a specific time of year, or whatever that looks like for your department, I'm happy to discuss what the integral details of that are, and we can certainly, you know, kind of sidestep those minimum budget requirements because they are already being met by the University of Utah.
If a client had just the smaller budget, what would you suggest they put that money towards? What would be the best efforts with a minimal amount of budget? Would it be email campaigns, social media? What would we be looking at for something like that?
Yeah, I think there would be a couple variables there that I'd want to maybe discuss with what the objective is, what the audience profile looks like, and a couple of things that would potentially go into that discussion. But based on, you know, the campaigns that we've run with, you know, where budgets are limited. I mean, every company, every client has a limited budget. Even Coke's got a limited, you know, marketing budget, right? And so as we look at those particular opportunities, we may say, hey, based on this budget, our recommendation would be to hit this particular vertical and really focus on that one vertical. Because what oftentimes we'll see is, you get this, this robust marketing strategy, and hey, this sounds great. I want to get this. We got this great video. We want to get it out in front of everybody. And so you have, 10 or 12 different assets you want to get out in front of everybody. But based on the budget constraints, you're going to spread yourself super thin. And so it's not going to be effective as it would if you were just, hey, let's focus on one opportunity and let's make it effective. And whether that's a display campaign or a social campaign or video pre-roll, we want to discuss what the particulars of the campaign are, and then we could talk about suggestions to how to best deploy that.
And I just want to jump in here and add one thing, which is regardless of your budget, it's really important with digital ads to figure out what you want your audience to do, what action you want to take. So I think it's really important to underline that unlike a billboard or a TV ad that is a larger branding initiative, digital is most effective when you have a specific action. So, and I think that the answer to that question really drives budget and which channel you use.
Another question that I just saw pop up was in regards to, as far as assets, what kind of assets are needed, whether we create those or UMC. That's a great question. So UMC has been a phenomenal partner, and they get it. So they already have all the assets, all the creative elements, and the brand guidelines, memorized, right? And so they can basically crank out a great ad set for you for display. Or if you have a video, there could be a lot of stuff that's kind of stock photography or stock video, but it's you of you assets. And so they're certainly capable. We love the assets that they send over, because like I'd shown in the slide, the previous slide, they're adaptable, they were quick. And so in most cases, the U of U is just going to basically package up and provide those digital assets for us, and then we'll just go and implement from there.
Kelly, Jen Ozawa has a great question. Do you have examples of successful ways you've worked to increase the diversity of student applicants? How about faculty position applicants? That's a great question.
Yeah, that is a great question. So we've worked with the employment on basically promoting some of the different awards that the universities won as an employer, and segmented to different types of audiences, promoting opportunities and jobs within a female audience. We can segment down to other types of demographics as well, and then also a campaign that we had run in September and October was for EDI, where we're basically promoting the Friday forums, where they're all about diversity, and bringing people together to have discussions. And so that could certainly apply to students as well as faculty. And so, yeah, certainly that's a great question and a great opportunity. And we've definitely done this recently as well. Okay, I see another question here. Sorry, Shelley, did you have?
No, I was gonna hit this question from Anna.
Yeah.
In your experience for brand awareness, are ad video campaigns functioning well right now? For example, on Facebook and Instagram, are ads video campaigns performing well right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, a couple of the things that have been interesting since COVID hit. Screen time is up, across the board, all users, all demographics, and engagement is up as well. A couple of things that are I think pretty interesting from that holistic view is, yeah, screen time's up, engagements are up in a lot of cases, but people are also doing their homework a little bit more, right? And so it's like, hey, I'm making a big decision here, whether it's a financial commitment for or whatever that is. Their conversion timeline maybe previously was 30 to 60 days. Maybe now maybe it's stretched out to 90 days. It's not always the case, but certainly something to consider from a conversion standpoint, that if we're trying to fill classes in that are 120 days out, we may want to start a little bit earlier and get in front of that audience and prime that pump a little bit longer and stay relevant for a longer period of time to keep in front of them. And then in regards to, you know, branding and awareness, certainly video is a great opportunity for that, because you can just tell a story. You can kind of connect in some of those visual assets and an emotional connection and things like that. And so we've been utilizing video more and more over the last several years, where that's becoming just a massive platform, and they're forecasting that YouTube will be the #1 search engine. I mean, you think about all the activity that happens and the viewership that happens on YouTube and the YouTube network on any given day. It's a phenomenal opportunity. And again, you can target right down to your individual audience. So, you know, branding can be an overarching branding campaign. However, you can also avoid all the spillover to, you know, irrelevant audiences, or people, you know, do you want to show your ads to 65+ people, or you want to focus on students, depending on the program, right? And so you can get your branding campaign just a little bit more refined to where, yes, it's branding, yes, it's a video, but this is what our audience looks like. And so you can level up a little bit from a relevant standpoint.
Kevin had a great question. Timing is important. Sometimes departments have a limited time to get their messaging out. How much time does it take to create and implement a digital campaign?
Well, I'll let Marie maybe in on that one.
Sure.
How long does it usually take us, Marie?
Well, I would say the quickest, it really depends on the messaging and the creative, and assuming we have all of those detailed questions answered. Who the audience is, what do you want them to do, what's your budget? So I would say in an example of like Friday Forums, EDI, we can usually pull something together in about 2 weeks' time, just because there are approvals, right? We come up with the creative, we pass it over to Kelly, we get a mock-up, we need y'all to improve it. So I would say a minimum of 2 weeks. Now, when there are more robust campaigns, like a bigger branding campaign, it really depends on if we're creating the assets and the concept from scratch, right? Like that pants optional campaign, the marketing and creative team worked a while on that to get that approved. So that probably took, and if somebody keep me honest, that probably took closer to 8 weeks. So it wasn't the setting up of the digital piece, but it was getting those approvals on the creative concept. So it can vary wildly depending on all those factors.
Great point. And I've taken that pants optional campaign to heart, and since this video is just basically from here up, I mean, I've been getting some weird looks in the office, but no. And another thing too that I think kind of coincides with that is there obviously is all these different elements that are going in from a strategic standpoint that UMC can coordinate with you, with the individual departments on. But essentially, as far as like our turn time, you know, if the foundational groundwork and the discussions have basically been laid out, and we kind of know, hey, this is our target audience, and here's all the assets. From time to execute for us, it can be as quick as same day, from where we can launch the campaign. We have the assets, we have the target, and we launch that same day. Sometimes it may take a little bit longer, but I would say that, you know, within 2 business days of receiving the assets and everything like that, we're off and running.
Looks like we're getting close to out of time. I know, Kelly, you mentioned that can you put that, your presentation deck in our chat function?
Yes.
For individuals to download. And we will also make this, this recording and that deck available to everyone on our webpage. And please, to all of those listening today, I think that your first line of contact should be with the UMC department. Go ahead and please reach out to us if you have any questions, or if you'd like to start a campaign. If you'd like us to connect you with Max Connect and do what we can to assist you with that process, please use us as your first line of resource. And if we don't have any other questions, I think we can go ahead and end here. We really appreciate everyone's attendance. We will be sending out a survey to all of you about today's event. And we really appreciate all the feedback that you've given us. We have seen a desire from folks on campus to connect with one another and to use this resource, but we want to make sure that it's as valuable as possible. So please let us know what works best for you. Anything else from anyone else before we end?
I'm just uploading that the PDF now. It's a big file, 107 megs, so it's taking just a second, but feel free to browse through that if we can cover anything that I'll make sure to get a copy over to you as well.